A couple of weeks ago, I posted some poll questions on my community tab, and I wanted to know, when it comes to saving money, what do you think is frugal and what is just plain cheap? Everything from reusing tea bags to sneaking snacks into the movie theater. You all had some strong opinions, and some of the results I kind of expected, but a few honestly surprised me. So in today's video, I'm going to reveal the poll results and I'm going to share my take on each one and then give some tips on how some of these habits can actually be done frugally without sliding into cheap territory. So let's get into it. Sneaking food and snacks into the movie theater. Now, I was surprised by these results. 13% said it was cheap and 87% said it was frugal. I see how y'all living out here, but I get it. One person commented that movie theaters make more money on food concession than they do on the seats that are sold. But as long as there's no sign specifically saying that you can't bring treats with you, then there's no reason not to be sensibly frugal. Now, when I was single, I once took a whole McDonald's meal into the theater in a gift bag. Yes, I did. But honestly, I felt kind of crazy doing it. So, because it was too much. But now, the 1 or 2 times a year that my family goes to the theater, I just make sure we eat dinner first so we're not hungry going in. And sometimes we'll get a big bucket of popcorn and just split it between the 4 of us. And some theaters will give you complimentary cups to split a large drink if you ask. But I usually just bring candy and sometimes a bottle of water from home or from the Dollar Tree, because I don't think bringing a small bag of candy or a drink from home is unreasonable. Maybe bringing in a whole Thanksgiving dinner, that might be pushing it. Reusing tea bags and coffee filters. Now, 47% of the people said it was cheap and 53% said it was frugal. And one person said that reusing coffee filters is cheap, but using a fresh coffee filter to clean the windows instead of using paper towels is frugal. And then another person said to open the tea bags and put them in your garden for the soil and to keep pests away. And that's the thing. If you're repurposing something in a way that still works, that's frugal. But if you're drinking hot water with a hint of tea bag string just to save 2 cents, that might be going a little too far. I say if you want to reuse something, make sure you're not sacrificing quality or taste, and maybe keep the reused tea bags just for you, not when you're having guests. Tipping only 15%. Even if the service is outstanding. Now, 43% said it's cheap and 57% said it's frugal. And most of the comments agreed that tipping the bare minimum when the service is great feels kind of cheap. And I would agree with that. 20 plus years ago, when I know I was cheap, I would tip 15% to the penny every time. Now, my standard is to just round up, and for really good service, I pay 20% and sometimes even higher. My suggestion is to include the tip amount in your budget for the meal instead of making it an afterthought, because you're going to be much more likely to give what the person deserves. The reality is that being frugal does not mean underappreciating other people when they give good service. Sometimes being generous can bring even more value than the money that you're saving. And you have to know when generosity is the payoff of being frugal. It's not always about pinching every last penny. Calculating your part of a group bill down to the penny. 40% said this was cheap and 60% said it was frugal. And one person commented, it's neither cheap nor frugal. It's just honest and correct. So I guess they feel that it's how it's supposed to be. And sometimes you go out with a whole group of people and 3 of the people decide to order extravagant meals and drinks and all kinds of extra things. And it totals up to over $100. And then when the bill comes, they want everybody at the table to split the bill evenly. Like they're expecting you to pay $50 when you only got a $25 meal. That's preposterous. Now, on the flip side, I think calculating it down to the penny is a bit much, and it is what I used to do when I was cheap. Now, I tend to round up to the nearest whole number and sometimes the nearest 5, and it takes off a few dollars off of someone else's bill or adds a little bit extra to the tip. And my desire these days, because I used to be so cheap, is to give more than what I owe so that I don't find myself in that place again. And so one tip for those group situations is to have everyone at the table agree on how the bill is going to be handled before you even order. And then whenever possible, ask for separate checks for each person so that there's no confusion. Is it cheap or frugal to buy clothes from big box stores like Walmart or Costco? 17% said it's cheap and 83% said it's frugal. And a number of people commented that the clothes from these stores are attractive and they fit well, while others said that the clothes fall apart and they would rather go to thrift stores or just buy clothes from Facebook Marketplace. Sometimes you don't know whether the clothes are going to last until after you've purchased them. Now, if they do fall apart, don't keep going back to the same place for more, because that's cheap and that's wasteful. But when it comes down to it, frugal fashion is definitely not about the label or the store it comes from. It's about buying clothes that you are actually going to wear and love for years to come. Regifting. Now, 23% of the people said that regifting is cheap and 77% said it's frugal. I thought that more people would think it was cheap, although I do think it's frugal. But you want to be careful not to regift in the same circles where you're receiving your gifts. Now, if I got something from a coworker and then I gave it to someone at church, I might be okay. But if I got something from a fellow church member, I'm not giving it to someone else at church, because that could be trouble. If you have something that's used, you don't want to give that as a gift for a birthday or a wedding. Just let the person know that you have this used item and you can ask them if they want it. But I think as long as it's unused and you believe that the person will genuinely like it, regifting is a great way to save some money. Is it cheap or frugal to eat food that is months past the expiration date? Now, only 32% of people said that this was cheap and 68% said it was frugal. In my house, this is definitely a debate. One person in the comments said that frugal means getting the most use and enjoyment out of your resources, and few foods actually expire. If the food is not rancid, spoiled, or rotten, there's no reason not to eat it to save some money. And I think this is true. The date is actually just an indication of how long the company can guarantee the food's freshness. It doesn't mean it's not edible past that date. Let your eyes and your nose help you decide. If it smells weird or the color has changed or you see things crawling around inside the food, it's time to let it go. Now, this next one, you'll either love the strategy or give it a real hard side eye. Going to an all-you-can-eat buffet just before lunchtime is over so that you're paying the lower price, but then you stay until dinner for the bigger selection. 58% said this is cheap and 42% said it is frugal. And a few people called it unethical. Another person said that they would call it cheap unless you leave an appropriate tip for the service, since you're taking up their table for so long. But depending on the size of the tip, you might actually be using up all the money that you saved using the strategy, so it would kind of just cancel itself out. I would call this one cheap because you're really trying to get over. I mean, like, you are really trying to get over. It's already an all-you-can-eat buffet, which means you're already going to get more than what you paid for. If you want to spend less money, just go during the lunch hours and eat till your heart's content. But if you want the dinner menu, pay for dinner and then just save a couple of dollars by only having water. Grabbing extra condiments from restaurants instead of buying your own at the store. 59% said it was cheap and 41% said it's frugal. Now, I'm surprised that many people said it's frugal. One person said that it's stealing and it's incorrect. But then another person replied to them and said that the price of the condiments is included in the food. As long as you don't take a whole bunch of them, you actually have paid for those condiments. Somebody else said to take more than you believe you will use for your meal is cheap. But to save the extras that you took because you thought you would use them is frugal. And I do believe that it's okay to take a few extra condiments, maybe to put in your car for the next time when your restaurant worker forgets to give you ketchup. But I think to take a whole bunch from a restaurant so that you don't have to buy ketchup and mustard and mayonnaise for your house, that's going too far. Sharing streaming service memberships with people outside of your home. 25% said it's cheap and 75% said it's frugal. One person said, "We all know it's borderline stealing. Rationalize to yourself that it's not hurting anyone, but these companies provide a service, a service for which they deserve to be paid." Okay. Now, throughout the comments, a lot of people did consider this to be stealing and thought it was dishonest. But sometimes I think it could be dependent upon the situation. Now, here's another comment. Our young adult children shared services, taking turns paying as they were able. As they all became independent and successful, they discontinued the sharing. I call it thrifty and helpful. And I'm kind of inclined to agree with this one. My adult son, he doesn't live in the house anymore, but I didn't just remove his profile from my streaming account. And if he wanted to, he could sign in and watch whatever he wants to do at any time. But keep in mind that some platforms are starting to crack down on sharing a single login. My tip is, if you want to do it, actually split the cost if you're sharing the service. It's only cheap when only one person is paying and everybody else is just freeloading. Whipping out a restaurant coupon on a first date. Now, 35% said it was cheap and 65% said it's frugal. Here's a comment from a person that says they find it attractive when someone is mindful of their spending, but for a first date, she would say no to using a coupon. And a lot of people shared that opinion, but then there were several folks who said, in this economy, you have to save every penny. And I think it's great to be frugal and use coupons or rewards points when you go out to eat. But I wouldn't recommend it for a first date because the person sitting across the table from you might not want to feel like you don't think they're worth the full price of a meal. Let the person know that you're money conscious, and then maybe the next time you go out, you can break out that Applebee's gift card that your mama gave you for your birthday last year. It just gives the person a little bit of a heads up. Now, some of these habits are pretty solidly frugal and some are definitely cheap, in my opinion. And then there are a few that kind of live in that messy in-between zone. But here's the bottom line. Frugality isn't about spending as little as possible. It's about spending wisely. Let me know in the comments what surprised you the most about these results, or maybe you have a money-saving habit that some people might call cheap, but you believe is really just smart and frugal. I'd love to hear about it, and you might want to grab one of these t-shirts. The link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with someone else that might enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more frugal living tips, and I will see you next time. Bye.